Hey, it's Mark Lanier with your video thought for the day. So this week I've been looking at scriptures hanging on walls and on bookshelves, and I've saved one of my favorites for today, Friday. So this is a scripture that's hanging on the wall in my office, in my library office, and I pulled it down because I want to be able to point to it very carefully and show it to you. But let me tell you first about what this is. When I turned 60 years old, my buddy Rick Meadow gave me this framed Torah scroll page or page is probably, but anyway, it's a framed Torah scroll that's got the section of the Torah that's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy in modern Bibles, English Bibles. It's got the section of the Torah that I would have had to have read had I been bar mitzvahed as a Jewish boy become man. And that generally happens at age 13, but the scripture is based upon when your birthday is. And so this contains the passage that I would have had to have read. And this scroll, over 200 years old, doesn't have any of the vowel markings of Hebrew that make it easier to read. It's written much more like the Hebrew would have been written way back in the day and antiquity. And so this is a tremendous thing. Now, the passage that I would have read would have been from down here. It says Genesis 6:9 through 11:32. This Torah scroll wasn't written just for my bar mitzvah over 200 years before I was born, but it was, so it contains a lot more than that. But the portion, you can see it all here, the portion that starts mine is right here. Here, let's zoom in. This is the portion that starts Genesis 6:9. Ila toldot Noach. These are the generations of Noah. And then it starts recounting the story of Noah. But I love what comes right before recounting it, which would be in Genesis 6:8, because it's got a great little play on words. It says, Vanoach matzah, and Noah found favor, Adonai, in the eyes of God. If you look real carefully, let's see if we can do this and not mess it up. We've got Noah right here. Noah is just those two letters. It's an N and that's actually an H. And then found favor, and then it's got the same two letters but turned backwards, HN. That's really cool. The Hebrew has a play on Noah's name. Noah found favor in the eyes of God. Now, in English, that doesn't really relate to each other. But in Hebrew, chen, the word for favor, is just Noah spelled backwards. And it's a delicious thing that happens a lot in the Torah, or at least multiple times in the Torah, where they'll take words and spell them backwards and then say, in the eyes of the Lord, it was this way. So this says, and Noah found his name spelled backward in the eyes of the Lord. And I love that because I love the way it shows that God doesn't always see things the way we do. We see things one way. God can turn it backwards, upside down. He can flip it on its side and use it to change the world, which is what happens as you continue reading this passage. And so when you continue reading the passage, you read that these are the generation of Noah, the man who was righteous, a Siddiq before God, who walked righteously before God. God can take someone who follows him and flip them upside down, flip the world upside down through them. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment today, because God knows you. And God has plans for the least of us. Noah going about his day, walking with the Lord, trying to be righteous and right before God. And what does he find? He finds God seeing him in God's eyes as the man through whom he's going to change the world. The world's a big place. I don't know what God's got planned for you today, but I do know that in the eyes of God, you are who you need to be used by him. Your job, my job, is to try to walk righteously before him so that he uses us in his plan. That's your video thought for the day. I'll see you next week.